Tim, you're really into it today.
I am. We've got like the best intro song ever.
Yeah, we totally do. It makes me just want to get up and move, and this cold weather makes me want to get up and move. Hi, everybody. How are you today on this Wednesday?
Yes, I just put an Altoid in my mouth.
Oh, that's lovely. So you're eating on camera.
Yes, exactly.
I so love when he does that.
I'm trying not to, but
I am Wendy Stuart, and
I am Tym Moss.
And welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We're so glad you're here.
We love doing this show because I got to tell you, there's very little that Tim and I have control over. I'm going to put it out there since Omicron came to visit in New York, and our shows are being canceled and postponed until February. Everything's being pushed till February. My birthday, which is Saturday, I normally do.
Birthday.
Oh, thank you, honey. Brouhaha for that, but I can't do a brouhaha because people are just trying to play it safe, not see each other. In New York City, everybody we know has had it or getting it or whatever. It's out of control.
And like Wendy said, I was booked solid through the middle of January. I mean, especially on the weekends and weekday nights and all of this, everything got canceled or postponed.
Everything, yeah.
Except last Sunday, Jackie Dupree had her birthday celebration, drag, of course, in drag. And so nothing stops a drag queen.
No, not even COVID. Even COVID cannot stop it. Right. And
so that was the only performance or the only outing I even had this month. So I have been kind of in, and I was kind of nervous about that, because there's, so many people and in one room and all of this.
Of course.
But I tested this morning just to make sure I'm negative. So yay.
We intended not only to see your performance, to see Jackie.
Yeah,
I was hell-bent for Leather to go to the Ritz, and I totally forgot I was doing a panel for the Hollywood, Florida Film Festival because our film was one of the chosen shorts. Fragile Beauty, about tribal people in a remote part of Ethiopia. And I love doing the Q&A. And the great thing that came from that, I met them remotely, but I am going to be going down next November for the actual festival. God willing, everything will be okay. We'll do it in person. And,
good.
like, you know what? We just have to keep our eye on the prize. I tell people that. I tell people that all the time. And please, ladies and gentlemen, fingers crossed, as you know, Tim and I are up for a Glam Award.
That's right.
Yay. Which is supposed
for this show right here.
For this show right here.
If these walls could talk.
That's right, if they could talk. So we're really hoping that continues, and that is January 30th at Sony.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
So I've just kind of been home with my Oculus,
your virtual.
That virtual reality. I love that thing. It's so cool. But next week I'm going to pop down to Puerto Rico for a couple days. Yay. Can't wait.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
So I'm not going to be here next week. Wendy's going to be here on her own.
Myself. And Tim will be in Puerto Rico. I want to scratch his eyes out.
And then
for
the
that.
week after that, Ikevelli and I are taking 50 Shades of Gay down to North Carolina. So, but I'll be here. I'll be in New York on Wednesday.
Very cool. Very cool. My God, who can keep up with us? And who can keep up with our guest?
I love this woman so much. You have no idea. Oh my God.
So do I. I've followed her career in New York since a very long time. Amazing actress, versatile actress, singer, speaker. I call her the star of stage, film, and song. She's never what I love about our guest is she is really the consummate professional, such a stage presence, and has developed every aspect of her acting career, singing, and she's just always out there. She's a working actor. You've seen her on Law and Order, Transamerica, and a ton of other shows.
Which we're going to cover all of that.
But you know what? Let me shut my mouth and introduce to you the one and only fabulous Bianca Leigh. Come on in. Slide on into the banquet. Oh, there we go.
Ta-da! Yay!
Hi, Wendy. Hi, Tim.
Hi,
darling.
So great to have you here. And it's very fitting because a number of the times I see you is at PANGEA. And when you did your one-person show here, Stories 2, was it?
Yeah, I did Stories and a Stories 2.
Stories 2 was the last thing I saw you at here.
Yeah, it was
Was that pretty? Yeah, I'm think I'm
The last thing I did here, yeah.
It was.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I have such a good memory. I did not burn out all those brain cells on poppers. Don't believe
I mean, the
anything.
place was closed for how long?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I love the show because I really didn't know your story. You were somebody that I always saw in productions on stage. We had mutual friends, but that was all that I knew. And there were moments in your story on that stage that really brought tears to my eyes.
Thank you.
So thank you. And thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. I'm very excited.
So I would. Where would you like to take? Before we bombard you with
Okay, let's get
questions.
started.
First of all, shout out to Jamie Harris. You have a wonderful agent. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
And a
Jamie
great
and
person.
Justin at Clear Talent.
At Clear Talent. Did you always know you wanted to be an actress?
Yes.
You did
Mhm.
from the time.
Yes. My sister and I, we went to dance school.
Oh, you did.
From my family, they're all New Yorkers, but my parents moved to South Jersey by Philadelphia to raise us.
Raise your right.
Oh, so that's where you grew up?
I grew up in South Jersey by
Okay.
Philadelphia. And there was a local dance studio, like Miss Kelly or something like
Mhm.
Miss
Miss
Kelly's
Kelly's Dance
Academy
Studio.
of Dance in the Willingboro Plaza. And I wasn't allowed to take ballet because boys did not take ballet.
Right.
Mhm.
Not in those days, anyway.
No, I did take
Well, just
tap. I was allowed to take tap, which I loved.
Right.
So I took tap. My sister took ballet, and we'd go to the dance studio. And there was a local production of Gypsy.
Oh, my favorite. Oh, Tim, right? My
I mean,
favorite show.
If you, what's better to be the first show you're in than Gypsy, right?
yeah.
And they needed kids for the opening Uncle Jocko's talent show.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the-
of course, right.
Uh-huh.
So they came to Miss Vicky's Academy of Dance and they scooped us all up. And that was the opening scene. And I was 5 or 6. And I played like a little clown. I played a
You
little
were-
clown. And there was a boy, an older boy next to me that was tying his tap shoes. And the bit was I would be sort of pushing him over so he couldn't tie his tap shoes. And the curtain went up and that was it. You know, that curtain went up
Right.
and the music, you know, you
You
heard
knew.
the
Oh my
overture.
yeah.
The curtain went up and that poor boy, I beat the shit out of him.
I love it.
Then I went after Uncle Jocko.
No, you stopped it.
I tried to kick Uncle Jocko in the ass. You know, it was crazy. But I loved that show. I loved watching the
What a great
rehearsals.
first, right?
Uh-huh. And it was on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was on. So, you know, we had a lot of community theater
You did.
and,
Mhm.
you know, high school. I went to Rutgers. And
Well, now you had a spoiler alert. You had
Spoiler
mentioned
alert.
boys were not allowed. She is trans.
Yeah. To do ballet.
In case you didn't know.
Right.
I am a woman
But-
of trans
Trans
experience.
There we
Yes,
go.
right.
Yes. Yes. But so you grew up outside of Philadelphia and got the acting bug at an early age.
Yes.
A lot of times, I don't know why, but with theater, you know, gay kind of comes along with that.
Yes.
When did you discover you might have been a little different than the other boys in school?
Well, I knew from because the gender stuff comes before the sexual attraction.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So I knew from an extremely early age that my instincts could get me in trouble. So
Mhm. Yeah, I
if
know
you
what
reach
you mean.
for the wrong toy,
Mhm.
Oh my
You
God,
can-
you knew you got
Yeah.
that. Wow.
you know, you knew you could make your parents very angry.
Mhm.
And how did you, so many people that I know personally reach for that wrong toy, and how did you know in your heart of hearts not to do that?
Because I got smacked.
Yeah, you
Oh,
just
so
you
the
get,
early
No, I
on,
you
didn't.
learn.
My parents weren't
Okay.
that. But you
No, I know what you mean.
you get in trouble, you know.
Yeah.
You can't play with that toy,
Right.
you know.
Right.
You know.
Because I can relate.
course.
I had a very similar
No
experience with
For reaching for the wrong toy.
Well, yeah, because I always want to play with dolls. And I also remember as a young, but we get those signals that no, you can do this, but you can't do that. You were born with a penis, so you have to be like this.
So yes.
And I remember at an early age, I was very close with my female cousin. And I always longed for the boys to look at me the way they looked at her.
At an early age, wow.
At a very early age.
That you were aware of that.
And yeah,
right.
I was aware, and I always wanted to be a girl, but that was not even in the realm of possibility or even in our consciousness at that time.
You have a sister. How did your sister and you connect?
My sister and I were thick as thieves. We were extremely close. And we would play Barbie together.
Yeah.
You know.
Same with my cousin. Yeah.
And
love it.
It was just great. And I remember she went away to stay with my grandparents, our grandparents, for a week. And she said, you know, play with my Barbies while I'm gone. And my mother was like, no. I said, oh, but Linda said I could play with her Barbies. She goes, no, you're too old to play with Barbies.
How old were you?
6 or 7. You know, it was like, the thing is with my parents is they were fantastic. They were, you know, I was raised in the 60s and 70s. So they were doing their best to be liberal, open-minded type of parents, but they came of age in the 50s.
Right.
So every once in a while, there'd be sort of a knee-jerk reaction. And back then, there was an incredible amount of fear.
Yeah.
Fear that your kid would be gay.
Well, gay, let alone trans. I mean, the amount of parents.
That wasn't even
the amount of parents that I know now from support groups who have trans children are doing all the right stuff for them.
It's very different.
It is so different now. But you're right. We came out of the 50s. Your parents were doing the best they can, but this was very scary.
I grew up in the 60s and the 70s out in the countryside of Indiana.
Right. I can't.
My parents were not liberal. They were conservative. And they were good parents. They did the best they could with what they knew and what they had at the time.
Right.
But they had, you know, I had an older brother who grew up and he was what he was supposed to be. My sister grew up and she was what she was supposed to be.
Too.
And then there was Tim.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yes, I was the baby.
Same exact story.
What are we going to do?
Perfect daughter.
Yes.
What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, pretty much.
And, you know, trying to find that niche, and part of it is, you know, like if you're the son, you're the daughter. What
you have your role,
right?
Right, you have
you have a role.
Right.
You know, you have an edible thing. You know, you have the classic thing.
Yeah,
and then you know.
Yeah, because they were expecting me to be like my brother, who was the jock and played the sports and did all of that. But I was more like my sister.
Right. And you loved performing from an early age.
Right.
And so did you.
And I felt a pressure at that age to not just conform, but it was as if it felt almost like a Stepford wife thing, like a Stepford child. You get the feeling like that if
phrasing,
you know, if you went away and a replacement came along that was perfectly boyish, they'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, you get that.
You're right. Oh
you
my
get
God.
That impression.
Yes.
And I always felt that they were trying to say, and from where they were coming from, they were trying to save me from a life of pain.
Right.
And in those days, they would talk about. I would overhear my parents would, you know, homosexuals, you know.
I never heard that word.
They would.
They wouldn't even say it. But you're conservative.
No, they would say.
You're spot on though with the life of pain, because even parents I know that are very supportive of their trans children. Somebody's explained this to me. It's like grieving. You find out, you know, that your child is trans at a young age because you've got the signs, and yet you want to save them from that life of pain. You hope that it's just a phase. I've heard that too. It's just a phase, but it's got to do with, you know, being a parent. No parent wants their child to go through any kind of pain,
of suffering,
right?
You know,
any kind of suffering.
And I think that's important, to take into account.
Absolutely,
the parents' fear, to a point.
Right, right.
To a point, and then it becomes you beginning to suffocate the child, and you're literally trying to destroy. It feels like they're trying
Of
to
course.
destroy your essence.
Absolutely, I know
You know,
exactly
they're
what you're
trying to
saying. What you mean?
destroy
Yeah,
your very
your
essence.
being.
You know.
Mhm.
So yeah.
So in school, as you were growing up, were you in theater and music?
I did a
and-
lot of theater. There wasn't a. They had a school play, and each child got to be each child was a different month,
Mhm.
and I was September, which was supposed to be, you know, when I wore glasses. I still wear glasses sometimes, and I was so upset. Who the hell wants to be September?
When
Especially
kids go
as a
back
kid.
to school,
It's the
and
worst month.
Yeah, it is.
I
It's
kept
kinda
saying,
like-
why can't it, you know, when this beautiful girl got to be June, because June
Right, you went
brides.
summer,
Yes,
gorgeous,
right.
you know.
June brides.
Right.
Uh,
So I was like, and you know, but for the most part, they didn't have a lot until there was a community theater, which we did a lot of stuff, and that was fantastic. And then in high school, they had all school plays, and they
Mhm.
had acting class.
oh,
and
all
then-
school, as in junior high and high school, and
No,
or
it
all
would be
the-
it would be a production that anyone in the school could audition for.
Right.
oh, okay.
right.
And then they
Fun.
had acting classes, and
What a great school.
Sweet,
That's
yeah,
that's
right?
great. We
That
didn't
would've
have that in
been
my school
great.
at all.
I forget what it was called, but there's an organization, you know, that you have that class,
Uh-huh.
and it's
Young Thespians of America. I just made that up.
There's something like
There's
that.
something like that.
That's
Young
fab.
Thespians American. You
Young
had that
Thespians of America.
every day, 8th period, and so we
That's
did
great.
those productions,
Mhm.
and I auditioned for Rutgers, and I went to Rutgers, and
In the arts.
yes, I have an
Uh-huh.
acting
Theater-
degree
theater
from
Nice.
Mason Gross.
Nice.
Very
Um,
cool. So actually, that part of you was completely being fed, which is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Thank
That was like
God.
I was allowed. Yeah, I
Right.
was never told
Right.
you can't do this, you
Mhm.
can't do that. I was encouraged. You knew that what they really wanted was for me to play football.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and looking back, I sort of wish there was. I sort of wish there was more of a. Okay, there was super masculine
Mm-hmm.
and there was fairy.
Right.
That was the
Like,
word
right.
that was
Yeah.
used.
Why
Farron, so-
couldn't there just have been more of okay, that's a writer. You're kind of a
Yeah, creative.
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
you're creative.
That
you're an
came
intellectual.
Later, though,
Yeah.
those labels came
Yeah,
much
no,
later.
but I know what
'cause,
you
yeah.
were, and believe me, I was not considered super masculine.
I used to wish I grew up in a Jewish family
What-
because
what-
there
what-
wasn't
what-
as much for the most with my friends. It wasn't as much of this obsession
Hmm,
with being macho and playing sports.
right.
To be smart and to be
Mhm.
accomplished.
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
my Alan is from a Jewish family. He can't do any of that. He was a creative. He
No,
was
of course.
completely out of control. His family couldn't control him, and he got a scholarship to visual arts. And he basically moved out of the house at 16.
Mhm.
No one
Oh.
could control him, but he was called a creative from early on in the
Creative,
game.
yes.
Right, right,
Not that there aren't any Jewish athletes, because there are.
right.
But, you know, it's-
Yes.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
I do know
I,
what you're saying.
Because growing up out there, I never heard the word gay or homosexual. I didn't even know there were other people like that
Oh,
out
you
there.
had
I
no-
didn't
wow.
know why. I was more attracted to the boys than the girls. I thought I was crazy. So I just tried to emulate, just copy what I saw the other boys doing. And it was so
Alien
it wasn't
probably
me.
to your
Yeah,
psyche.
yeah. So I lived more in my mind than in my heart.
Me too.
And right.
I sort of led a parallel life in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I would go about my day, but I'd also sort of have this: what would my day have been like in this if I'd been allowed to
that
be
would have
myself.
been. Oh, that would have been.
So you were
fun.
rewriting a script early on.
Wow.
You
Yes.
were rewriting your own script.
Well,
Wow.
the thing is, I remember in 8th grade, I was like, what I wanted to do is leave at winter break and come back as the new girl in class.
Oh wow.
I love
You know,
Wow.
the new transfer.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually happening now.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Your dream is coming true.
My
I
dream is
love
coming
it.
true.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's for not for me. I'm not included in that, but it's fantastic that there are kids that are being supported and
Totally.
being allowed to express themselves and be themselves,
Right.
whether they fully transition or not.
Right.
But and
Good
and the
point.
thing that I
Good
love
point.
is these younger generations are fine with that.
Yes.
They you want to
Yeah.
put on a dress and come to school, fine, okay.
Okay, but
do you want to still play on at recess? You know, I mean, they don't care.
But look at what
None
they're
of that
watching
matters. I
on
love
TV. Look at the influence TV has. Look at the influence it's around them.
And
This
the
is,
internet.
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
Right, and the internet. It's a much more accepted.
They
I
can
would've-
find other. They know there's other people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Listen.
but if I would have showed up in a dress at school,
Oh,
I would
no.
have been a bloody mess on the playground.
Oh my God! no.
Totally.
I mean,
Did you think you thought about putting on a dress and going? To
I would
school?
have loved to put on
Yeah.
a dress, but that just again wasn't even in
How did you
any
both
realm of
deal with
reality.
prom?
Oh, I asked a girl, and oh my god, the slow dances were fucking torture. Oh my god.
I didn't go to prom.
Mhm.
That
Just
my
didn't
senior
go.
year, my parents divorced,
Okay.
so I was a mess. So it wasn't just, we have to remind ourselves that being trans was a challenge, but it certainly wasn't the only challenge I've ever had in my
Right,
life.
Of course,
right.
there's
Yeah.
tons of
Mhm.
stuff, right?
And even if you're not trans, we talk about a painful life. Someone that is perfectly heterosexual, perfectly
Mhm.
cisgender, can have a very painful life
Absolutely.
Totally and completely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right.
Mhm.
and be
Right.
miserable.
And lots of kids with parents divorcing, especially at that age. It's such a pivotal age to begin with. You
Mhm.
know, you're finding your identity, no matter who you are.
Yes.
And your parents
Mhm.
divorcing like that. That
It's
is
very
very,
difficult.
very
Yeah,
difficult.
because I
Very
ended up
difficult.
having a girlfriend in high school, and we had a very active sex life. I mean, at that age, it's like stick it in something hot and wet. I'm there.
Tim's always gone for that.
but
That's testosterone for you.
There you go.
but when I was having sex with her and her younger brother, who was only like a couple,
Did you
couple
You had sex
Fantasize?
with her and
No.
her brother?
No,
That's how that came out.
I'm having sex with
We're
her,
thinking of
and her brother is peeking in the window, and I start fantasizing
I
about
knew you were
him.
going to say that.
I thought, okay,
Right.
there's a problem
Something-
here.
Something's up.
something's up. But it's it's amazing with them, what you can compartmentalize, and you realize you can be living. This is what's locked inside.
Right.
Yes.
And locked is
Yes.
the way people.
But I was
describe
told,
it.
I remember there were other boys that were labeled fairies or
Mhm.
what have you. They got it a lot worse than I did.
Mhm.
Mhm.
A lot.
Mhm.
Well, one of the good things about having an older brother, an older sister, is you learn how to defend yourself.
Right.
Mhm. Well, my brother was 8 years older. My sister was 5. So
Oh,
they were all long gone by the
Oh,
time
okay.
I
You
hit
were by
junior
your-
high.
your
Yeah, I
lonesome.
was
so
on
we
my
were
own.
only 2 and 2 years
Uh-huh.
apart.
But there's something to be said for that, Tim, because you had to sink or swim. You
Mhm.
were by your lonesome.
Oh, there was a lot of times I sank, but
Right.
yeah.
Oh God.
But baby, look at you
But
now.
I do give it to my parents again under those
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. They did give me enough rope to fly as a kite.
Right.
I do give them that. I mean, I'm sure I embarrassed the hell out of them because I always wanted to be a cheerleader. Always wanted to be a cheerleader. My junior year in high school, I approached the sponsor of the cheerleaders and I said, "How about if we resurrect the mascot?" It was a Cast and Comets, and
Yeah.
Astro used to be and I said, I'll be the mascot. So I ended up being a cheerleader, but they couldn't call me a cheerleader because I was a boy. So I had to be the mascot. But
You were the
I
mascot.
was
Oh
the
my
one.
God.
I was the one that would break through the thing on the football games and do the back handsprings down
Oh,
the floor
wow.
or the basketball court. I had a ball.
Wait, but you
I
never
had
did
so
two
much
together.
did. Of course I did.
But I never
but
knew
I
you could
finally
do that
made.
hand
Well,
swing.
I could then, not now. Trust me.
I'm half Jewish. We don't know how to do that kind of stuff. I fall into that category.
yeah,
we were
I
talking about.
would
you
always.
might break something. Why would you even
Yeah.
try?
What are you crazy?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so we'd figure out ways to get what we wanted
Right.
based upon the playing field that we had available to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
You figured you figured it out.
Yeah.
Right.
You figured it.
So I would think Rutgers for you, of course, was very freeing. Now
It was
Mhm.
very freeing, but what ended up happening was every time we were assigned a scene for the end of the semester, it was always like, this is not the part I want.
right.
I want her part. That's the part I
Mhm.
relate to.
Mhm.
Right. That's
Those are
part
the
I want.
lines that speak to me. That's what I want to express. And so I knew definitely by the time I was, 7th, 8th, 9th, I saw a magazine with Christine Jorgensen.
Mhm.
So I
remember
knew.
all that, yeah.
And then there were some trans women on Merv Griffin. I remember there were these. Merv had these trans women, and I thought, this is fantastic. I mean, they transitioned, they're living their lives.
And you
this
could
is
you could
possible.
identify with
Of
that.
course,
and
I
feel
was like,
that.
that's me, that's me.
Wow.
And you know that was way different then. They did
Oh,
not have the
absolutely.
hormone therapy that they have now.
They
They didn't
didn't,
have any.
And the surgery
Yeah.
was
The
not-
surgery was brutal. And I remember Christine Jorgensen. I was totally fascinated by
Dude, what a
Christine
lady.
Jorgensen.
an
you know.
absolute
That
an
they could
absolute
do
lady.
this. I thought, I'm like, isn't that great?
It's great.
For me,
Mhm.
it was just like and still a total and complete fascination that a person can live who they are in their
Right.
head, not what
And not
the
have to
outside
hide
shell
inside.
is.
Exactly.
Right.
It's so
Isn't
But
that
that would have been
amazing?
so liberating.
It
seeing
was
Yeah, it
very
was
liberating seeing
liberating.
that. And then I remember the next day I went to school and I said to this girl, Stacy, wasn't that amazing? And she said, that was disgusting. Freaks.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't
Uh-huh.
wrap my mind around, why wouldn't you be happy
I
Mhm.
for these
hear you
women?
loud and
Why
clear.
would you?
Right.
That just blew my mind. And
Right.
again, it's we see it today. It's one of the things you have to reconcile with as
In my opinion, it's a lack of education, and what is happening right now
Totally.
is an education going on.
Right.
The society is in session, is in school right now.
I do believe that, Tim,
Mhm.
but I also believe that a good deal of people, they're just looking for somebody to shit on.
Oh, of course, of course.
I
Oh,
mean,
God,
that's
yes.
where I know when someone
Absolutely.
doesn't understand, they
Yep.
can't wrap their mind
And
around
don't
it.
want to.
And I know when someone knows exactly what's, knows better,
Mhm.
but it's, I'm going to shit on this person because I
Mhm.
can.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
I was told a long time ago, shit rolls downhill.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. There's
And
also,
the-
if you look at the politics, even now, something like 63 trans women were killed
Yes.
since
yes.
the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And
Last
we're
year.
talking,
Last year,
we're
yeah.
talking here about, yes, parents are becoming aware of their children being trans at a younger age. There's certainly puberty blockers, there's
Mhm.
support, there's all this. But then when you think about the bills that are being paid, there's not a day that goes by that I don't hear about another bill that they've tried to pass,
Mhm.
anti-trans. I
Right.
think a lot of those people, if you say trans to them, they go, disgusting. I think that those,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
that has
The
not,
lawmakers. yeah.
right, that has not changed. It's not only the lawmakers, I think it's a culture in this
Right,
country.
absolutely.
And as much as you try and educate, I know people, because
If you're born with a penis, you're a boy. You've got to be a
Right.
boy. If you're born
They're
with a vagina, you got to be a girl.
they are
And-
completely unaccepting of anything that's not them.
Mhm.
And I,
And that if someone is living their dream
right.
Mhm.
and it says to, well, what could I have done if I'd only tried?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Most people, I'm sure there's things about being a woman that you don't like, things about being,
Mhm.
and then most people, they just reconcile that, they accept it. So they don't understand why we don't.
Right.
And it's not about this, and this are a pain in the ass. It's 100% identification. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I would try to sit with my brother and my father, and you'd be watching the Three Stooges or baseball, and I didn't get it. You know, I'm a Lucy girl.
Oh,
Same. My little Margie.
Yes.
Donna Reed. Right up what identifies as the femme from the get-go.
well,
Well,
the
I mean,
empowered
Also,
feminine.
what I mean, you know, I
Mhm.
love Lucy. The Three
Yeah. How
Stooges.
could-
I was like,
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
you know, I can appreciate it. I can
Right.
appreciate it, but I was like,
Wasn't your thing.
you know, sitting and watching baseball.
Right.
What
Why?
why? Why?
Never. Same.
Now, when my dad took us to a Phillies game.
Oh, now that's different.
That's different.
Fun.
You're
Yeah.
outside.
Because
The
it was
sun
live,
is shining.
and-
Right. The guys
You
are
got-
running around in those tight pants and bending over and
I
playing
was
with
a little
their
too young.
balls and-
A little too young to pick that up, and we were so far out.
Tim wasn't. He was.
and binoculars.
Yeah.
Oh my God! But you know, and you get a hot dog and pennants, and everyone's
Yeah,
so excited.
exactly. It's
So I
fun.
did enjoy that, but and I remember, you know, listening. I didn't understand what my father and my brother were talking about. What are they talking about? Why are they talking about it? The things that were important to them.
Yeah,
I couldn't
right.
even
Get
get
it.
to. Right,
I would sit with
Yeah,
my
their
sister,
priorities. Yeah.
sister, my mother, my grandmother. I got it. Everything they said, everything that was
Right?
important to them.
Uh-huh.
Their very language.
was
The
your
words they
was
spoke.
your language
Yes.
and your thought system. That's very
Mhm.
and that's you can't take that away from a person.
Mhm.
It's who they are. I don't know why more people don't get that.
Mhm.
You know, we try to talk about, you know, yes. I mean, there's a lot of times people try to justify through science or psychology, you know, biology, psychology, our existence.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm finding the older I get, the less time I have for that. Life is very, very short.
Mhm.
And if someone has made up their mind to be trans exclusionary, I'm not going to be able, nothing I say is going to change their mind.
Absolutely.
And nothing
Agreed.
they say is going to
Right.
change my mind.
Mhm.
Right.
What I will say, though, is I'm trans,
Mhm.
so I know better.
Yes.
I'm
Oh,
trans.
God.
I'm speaking from
Yes.
experience.
Absolutely.
You know, my doctors are speaking from
Experience.
experience.
Mhm.
You know, someone that's not trans and they're not a surgeon, you know, and
Mhm.
they're saying, oh well, this and that, and there are all these complications. You know, taking things that have truth in them, but
Mhm.
sort of like the suicide rate.
Right.
Mhm.
They keep talking about that. There was a study done in Sweden about that we have a higher suicide rate,
Mhm.
trans people. And the doctor that did that study is very upset that it's being used
Hmm.
against trans people. She said, that was not
Wow.
my conclusion. That wasn't what I was trying to say. It was a very small sample of people.
Mhm.
To take that and extrapolate and say, you would think from what they're saying, there'd be trans people dropping from buildings as you walk down the street. It just,
Wow.
there is a, you know, there are higher levels of depression and substance abuse with all queer people,
Mhm.
Right.
you know?
Been there.
So we know it has a lot to do with prejudice. So when other marginalized groups are marginalized, disenfranchised, oppressed, violated physically, those markers go up.
Absolutely. And they're
Mhm.
going to have a
Absolutely.
higher suicide rate. I will,
Just-
well, you go first and then.
I was just going to say, simply because society and their standards, and if you don't fit into those,
Right.
any group feels outside. But then you've got trans who then pursues and follows their true soul and their true being. And then once they step out into public, are criticized even more
Right.
for being their true self, that would just be horrifying.
I mean, it can be. I mean, I've been very, very lucky. There is a lot of support and
Mhm.
a lot of support, a lot of acceptance, a lot of approval out there. Tremendous. And it's important not to focus on those
Right.
people
Right.
who choose to die on that hill.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
I will give you the other side of the coin, though, because I think it's really important to talk about it.
Mhm.
At our LGBTQ Triversity, we have a trans group. I know a number of people, you and I talked about this before the show, that transitioned later, that had a wife and kids and a job, often a blue collar job. I've, in my head now, I separate that group from, you know, you and everyone else I know who came to New York at a certain time, who transitioned, did it was not without its pain. I'm not saying that, but it was a lot easier when you have all the trappings of what, you know, the house with the white picket fence is, and you blow that up, right? Because your entire life, you knew the life you were living wasn't right for
Mhm.
you. A lot of those people that I have spoken to, they all had suicidal thoughts or
Mhm.
attempted suicide. And
Sure.
I think, you know,
secrets are corrosive.
sit right. Oh my
Mhm.
God, you're so
Wow.
brilliant. But
Yeah.
yes, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is,
Absolutely true.
and I think when we have this discussion, you have to look at the broad picture
Mhm.
of what transgender is, because even from me, I have learned so much from so many brilliant people in that community.
Right. Firstly, let me just say thank
Yes.
you everyone for tuning in. You're watching If These Walls Could Talk with your host, Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, our amazing and fabulous guest, the one and only Bianca Leigh, right
Bianca
here.
Leigh!
Yay! One thing that I do want to state and just put the fact out there is, and this took me a long time to understand in the LGBT
Yeah.
community, is trans is about identity.
Yes.
It is not about your sexuality necessarily.
Right.
It has to do with how you feel on the inside, what gender you relate to. And if you're born in the body of a male, but you can relate to a female, that is
yeah.
trans. And that's what separates, and that's why I think so much of the trans community almost feels like they're outside the LGBT community, because a lot of the
They
gay
do.
and the lesbian,
Yeah.
they just don't get
Right.
that.
Right.
You know, where I'm coming from, this is where
Of
I'm
course.
coming from.
Mhm.
I believe in the LGBTQ
Mhm.
plus.
LMNOP. Yeah.
I believe-
QRSTUPWXYZ.
I believe in a greater community.
Mhm.
It's important. They're different. Gender and sexual preference or sexual attraction to it, you know, they're not the same thing. But
Right.
there is overlap in the real world.
Mhm.
For example, the experiences that I had, cross-gender identification, many of my gay male friends experienced that as children,
Mhm.
either wanting to be a girl at one point or, you know, all the same
Yeah,
thing.
I did.
And a lot of them, they realize, especially sort of after their puberty, their male puberty, they're like, oh, I kind of like this body.
Mhm.
You know, I'm okay with this body. And they outgrow it, for lack of a better word, they outgrow it.
Mm.
So that doesn't, you're my sister.
Mhm. Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I sort of, I see it
Absolutely.
as
Absolutely.
there's a large sissy sisterhood.
Yep.
So whether, you know, my identification was absolutely 100%. You know, I would go out on Halloween. We would dress up with some of my gay friends.
Mhm.
We were all excited at the beginning of the evening, terribly excited. But by the end of the night, the gay men were like, oh, I can't wait to take this fucking wig off,
Right.
this fucking heels.
And you were in fucking heaven.
Devastated. Then I had to take it off. I was
Right, it was like,
devastated.
no, I don't want it.
Devastating. So it was complete. So the idea that there are all these men out there, and the only thing going on is they like other men.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's trans people. That's not real. There is sort of an overlap.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
obviously
Of
a lot
course,
of trans people had sex while they were still male-bodied.
Right.
So they had gay sex.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there were many gay men that had some cross-gender identification.
Mhm.
Not all by any means.
Mhm.
And so people argue, are trans people part of the LGBT
Absolutely.
community?
I've
But what I say is, it's not whether we're gay or lesbian. That's
Mm-hmm.
because aren't lesbians and gay men transgender in a sense?
Yes.
Because they're not
Interesting.
transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
but they have transgressed their gender. So
Wow.
the reason
Yes.
a woman being attracted to a woman and having sex with a woman
Mhm.
is verboten is because she's a woman.
Right. Right.
It's not because she's a woman, it's
Right.
because you're a woman. That's women don't do that.
Uh-huh.
Same thing with a man. If you're attracted to men, you have sex with men. Men don't do that.
Right.
Oh my
So-
God, this is such an incredible
is-
subject
I
for a
love this.
talk, transgressing your gender. Because I have not
Wow.
heard anyone, but you're opening up a can of worms here. So
I
to speak,
know.
Because,
Yes,
no,
I
but I
love
love
it.
this.
I
Right.
love
We both
it.
love this because we've over in that LGBTQ plus.
Right.
It really, it pisses me off when my transgender friends say horrible things about gay men, when the gay men
Mhm.
say horrible things. I don't understand, and I will never understand why we can't all get along and support each other, because in that spectrum,
Well,
certainly
like we
when,
used to.
when we
you
were-
remember
right.
when we used to all party
Yeah.
together.
right,
and-
but we
yeah.
came out of another time.
Absolutely.
I am hoping now I meet all of these kids in their 20s that identify under this other umbrella, queer.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
And then all of the different categories now that fall under queer. Maybe that's going to be the answer. I don't know.
There's times when we come, there's definitely times we come together,
Right.
you know, and there's times there's
Oh, yeah.
conflict. But to me,
But that's
and a
family
lot of
too.
trans people are like, I'm not gay, I have nothing to do with it. For me, gay men are my brothers,
Mhm.
lesbians are my
I love it.
sisters.
Yep.
Sometimes
Love it.
vice versa.
Yeah.
But
And you support the drag community.
I do support that
Good.
because a lot
Yeah, which that's a whole
that
other.
I understand. Okay, again, it's a sissy sisterhood to
Right.
me.
Yes, right.
I have several drag associates that they
Mhm.
take it off and they're just guys.
Right.
Guys that love cock, but they're just guys.
Mhm.
Right.
And I have a few friends that they're a little more invested.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to say, you know, a couple of my drag friends are really trans. They just never transition.
Right.
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 And then you go more into it and they're like, again, they identify to a large extent, but they're fine being male bodied at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So now we have sort of, we're talking about being non-binary,
Right.
being gender
Right. Now
fluid.
you've gone into
Yeah.
the whole gender fluid area.
And in the beginning, I wasn't quite sure because back in the 70s and the early 80s, people who described themselves as androgynous,
I remember.
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yes.
they were anti-trans. They were trans exclusionary. They would often attack people who transition. Why are you doing that? Just be androgynous like me.
Mhm.
It's different now.
Mhm.
You have much more of a unified community between trans people and non-binary people. So you
Right.
have trans people identify as non-binary, non-binary people identifying as trans.
Yeah.
And my first, what you would call a gay mother
Mhm.
back in the day, she took me to the doctor for my first hormone shot.
Mhm.
And I was so excited. I said, well, have you had the surgery? And she stopped me and she just said, okay, this is a process.
Yep.
Mhm.
You live as a woman, you work as a woman, you travel as a woman,
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
socialize
Live your
as a
life
woman,
as you live your life as a
Mhm.
woman.
and you will
Right.
do, and you will have as many procedures as you need or
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 want.
desire. Yes.
Right.
and then you'll get there. You know, it's like you don't just jump. And that stuck with me. That was,
Exactly.
you know,
And that's something that a lot of people just don't get.
Absolutely.
well,
It is a process. It's not just, oh, I think I'll have the surgery today. No, you won't.
no.
I have met a lot of kids in
That's
their
what I'm
20s
saying.
that it really is wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
It's very different now.
The
yes.
hormones are very accessible.
Right.
Hormones also make you feel a certain way.
Mhm.
Okay, so you know what? Let's jump into the top surgery. Let's jump into the bottom surgery. I know somebody that had like all of the surgeries within 2 months.
Yes.
She's very happy.
Mhm.
She I thought it was the most insane thing. I'm like, do you really? Well, because let's talk about what people do to their bodies. It's a lot
Right.
to put the human body through. And yet I can't fault this person. She's very happy. She's
Mhm.
living the life she wanted to. She's young. What can I say? It's personal choice.
You know,
yeah?
now that insurance companies
Right.
And Medicaid will pay for it,
Mhm.
it's very different.
Right.
You know, years
Yeah.
ago, there's a lot of saving
Right.
involved because
Mhm.
in the late 70s, all of a sudden Medicaid was like, we're not going to do this.
Right.
Every insurance company is like, we're not going to pay for this.
Right.
Right.
Right. Oh,
Um,
Now,
But, yeah.
I was just
Well,
going
I
to say,
wanna show
because
the clip,
firstly,
and then
look
I'm
at
gonna go-
this,
yeah.
look at this face, this beautiful, beautiful
thank
face.
you.
And we were also talking about the models and before, and about how you would never be considered as a female model, correct? Because we've got a couple videos here.
yeah,
that we
well, I
wanted
want to show your videos that really describe it. And I do want to say one thing. I first met you through Sweetie, and I don't know if you remember. We shared a cab home. We got in a cab, and I don't see gender a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's just me. And I said to Sweetie, Bianca's the most beautiful woman
God.
I've ever seen. I mean, she's no, because I
Thank you.
love beauty, and out there in the world, and that you just affected me. And Sweetie said,
And she outed me in
"Three
3 seconds.
Sweetie not only outed you, I said to Sweetie, she's such a wonderful actress too. I'm like, my God, I bet she's cast in everything. She reminds me of Sharon Tate. You have that whole
thank you.
Hollywoodish beauty.
I love
So
Sharon
I
Tate.
knew you were.
I love
right.
Sharon Tate.
Uh-huh.
And Sweetie said to me, it's actually quite challenging getting work. And
It
even
is.
then, now easier than then, but
Much easier.
but
now.
even
Mhm.
then, it didn't. I'm like, well, I don't understand. Like, why would it be challenging?
Well, back in the day, you mentioned models. Back in the day, there were trans girls that became models,
Right.
and April Ashley,
Yep.
Carolyn
April-
Cossey,
yeah.
Mhm.
and Tracy Norman Africa here in the States. And she was modeling, and I think she was in Essence magazine. She was
Mhm,
on the
yeah.
cover of a hair coloring box. And
That's the top of your career when
Yeah.
you make that box. I've never made the box, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not on the box.
well, but not just about. I believe it was also put on a billboard.
Mm.
Boxes and billboards.
I believe it was.
Uh.
I believe because I remember saying, that's Tracy up there, and someone outed her.
I remember.
to
I remember this.
and
right.
that was that.
Yeah.
That was that.
Then
That was
they wouldn't hire her.
Mm.
that was
Again.
that. And then now, years later, she's asked by Clairol
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
to
I read that too.
return
Right.
Yeah.
to this, which is fantastic. But yeah, that was
it is fantastic, but that's I
That
want to
is
show
the
your
progress.
clips.
That is
right.
the progress.
It
that
is
has been
progress,
made.
but there's
Yeah.
also a part of me that hates that whole bandwagon bitch thing. I remember when Barney's was putting all these transgender couples models in the windows.
Mhm.
Were they doing that because they really
Right.
believed in those people, or were they doing that to sell the clothes at Barney's? And you know
Exactly.
what? I freaking hate that. But I want to see your clips.
Yes, let's see the
Yes.
clips.
Okay.
That's you.
I had a reason for put your glasses on. Yeah, we're muted, aren't we, Tim? I can't.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Well, I should probably talk about my early transition. It seems to have significance to the story. I came out many years ago. I transitioned, and I was all by myself. My family rejected me. Not in a hateful way. It was just too much. too much for them, way over the top. 30 years ago, you just didn't do that, and if you did transition, you were going to live on the fringe. You're going to live in the street. Didn't quite happen that way for me, but I got in a lot of trouble those first few years because I didn't have any support and I was so young. And the support that you find, or at least back then, from other queens, it's a lot of old wives' tales and urban legends, and there was a lot of love, there was a lot of support. But we were so young, and many of us were unskilled, uneducated. In those days, you could discriminate against a trans person, a trans woman, housing or employment. And it was a very dark time. And I'm a woman of trans experience. When I first told my family, it was like, what? You're going to what? It was just when I actually transitioned, I just get dressed up and go out. The outside matched the inside. A good hair day, I feel like I can conquer the world. The first time that I ponytail was so exciting. I remember the original Don't Hate Me Because I'm Beautiful campaign. And here I am in a Pantene video. It is amazing. The support of another trans person who's been through what you've been through. It's immeasurable. There's a lot of people that lived their whole lives and were never able to tell anyone. And that's changing. It's just incredible. Because I'm beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes. Part of that, I talked about Kelly LeBrock.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because she was the very first Don't Hate Me Because I'm Beautiful.
I remember that with those lips.
Those lips.
Like, I want those
and
lips.
I remember looking at Kelly Brock going, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And to be in a Pantene ad all those years later after.
But
I just want to clarify.
Really
Someone in the
yes.
someone in the comments clarified. Medicare does not pay for transition related surgeries. It's Medicaid.
Medicaid,
Yes.
yeah.
Simone
Simone said, yeah.
Press.
Hi, Simone. Thank you for tuning
Thank
in.
you.
I love
For,
Simone.
I
Thank you
sort
for
of
the
thought that when I did it.
clarification.
I said, did I say? But as I get older,
Oh.
Medicare starts to
have more
come
meaning.
into my consciousness more. It's Medicaid.
Medicaid.
But
Medicaid.
Simone also says 26 states you can still discriminate against
Yep.
the transgender
Yeah.
community, sadly enough. Let me just see.
Simone has a
Sue
bunch of-
Stutzman says, hello, dolls. So great seeing all of you.
Hi, Suze. Thank you.
Um,
Simone has got really great statistics.
yeah. Simone says 99.4% of the world is cisgender. So it's no wonder the LGB community has the same issues and not understanding the T's. I have found that some level of misunderstanding of us by both cis and gay community.
Yes, I have not found that, but I know a lot of trans people that have found that. Well, look, the truth is most gay men and lesbians do not believe there's such a thing as bisexuality. So
Right, that's a whole other thing.
Forget
Right,
the
yeah.
trans
Exactly
community.
right. Yeah, no,
there
you're right.
still
You're
is a
right.
lot of whatever
that be?
in the larger community. But I still think we do and can come together when it's important. And I hope that
Mhm.
continues.
I hope so,
Absolutely.
too.
I hope
Absolutely.
it continues. I have a little more of a rosy view of it.
Well, in the
I'm
kids
with
that are
you,
coming
sister.
up, okay, the kids that are coming up, I think we have a lot of hope in.
yes.
You know.
And Twyla Childress says we should all remember that God does not make mistakes.
Right.
I love that.
Exactly. And
So when I want to say something about that,
Mm-hmm.
that's an often thing. That's something that's often thrown at trans people by religious. They say God doesn't make mistakes. I never said God made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
right.
You know, yes, God made me male-bodied, a male-bodied
Right,
child.
Right.
But also, if you believe God creates you, I was created as a trans
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
I agree.
child.
I agree.
So
He
yeah,
didn't, he didn't
Yeah.
make a mistake.
Right.
He or
Right.
she didn't make
no,
a
it's
mistake.
not about. I never thought this is
Right.
correcting
Right.
a mistake.
Right.
I believe that gender variance and even being lesbian, BA is simply part of the fabric
Absolutely.
of humanity. We've always been here. We always will be here.
Yeah, I mean, all through time and through all societies. I mean, the
you go
Indians used
through
to call them
history-
twin spirit, or
Twin
spirited, I
Twin
believe.
spirited.
or two spirits.
Two spirits.
Two spirits, yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's not anything new.
Raven
you
O
know.
talked about that,
Uh-huh.
the two spirits in the
Mhm.
Hawaiian culture. And I
there's
thought that
there's
was-
a very specific word that Raven uses,
Mahu.
which
Ma-
yes,
ma-
yes,
Yes, yes.
yeah, and
yes.
and
Hi Raven.
hi Raven.
We love
And
Raven.
Raven, I went through his journey, sometimes very femme, sometimes very
Yeah.
butch, sometimes this
Mhm.
amazing blend of the two at the same
Yes.
time, before really sort of re-engaging with the Mahu
Right.
identity.
The Mahu side, the Mahu
Mhm.
side. But you're so right about history. If you
Mhm.
study history, and even now, if you study indigenous people, I've spent a lot of time in Africa, where that's a
Mhm.
very hard culture not to be macho, and yet in some of the tribal areas, you will find people that embody female and male.
And
Mhm.
I just want to say this, because a lot of the stuff is about being trans, but I'm very concerned that, okay, an effeminate boyhood
Mhm.
is probably one of the hardest things someone could go through.
Effeminate, yeah.
Yeah.
Being an effeminate boy
It
Yeah.
wasn't easy.
is really hard, because people, when they discover that and they see that and they identify that, they don't want us, they want us dead. They wanted
yeah,
us
right.
dead.
They want to erase. Yeah.
like
Eliminate.
you get the message, like when it becomes really awkward, like in puberty,
Mhm.
around that horrible, and then you start getting ostracized, and then even the people that love you become embarrassed and don't want to be seen with you. They don't want you to exist.
Mhm.
Right.
So whether
Yeah, that
someone's
level of hatred.
It
is
is, because
strong.
you're different from them. This is
Mhm.
what human beings can do.
yes,
You are different from me. I have to annihilate you.
whether someone is trans or not, or they grow up to be gay, or they grow up to be straight, or they grow up to be trans, gender variant children need to be protected.
Yes.
And I
Really.
can't speak for a tomboy girl. I know my sister was a tomboy, and she that seemed to be okay. But I'm sure there's butch lesbians and trans men that went through shit too.
Right.
But gender variant children need to be protected. There's far too much bullying going on.
Mhm.
Children are
Thank you.
killing themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
If we talk
Yeah.
about this,
Yep. Thank you for saying
those
that.
of us that have been lucky enough to find a transgender life, to be able to transition, and often we go on to live lives that are happy, joyous, and free. Too much time, the narrative is only the negative and only the
Right.
challenges.
Right.
Why would we do this if we didn't find joy
Exactly.
Right.
in
Right.
being who we really
Or
are?
if you didn't have to,
If you didn't
for
have
your
to.
own piece
Yes.
of soul.
It is interesting to me in finding your joy, and certainly because I've followed you on social media and just in general, how you just started to work and work and work as an actress. What do you think were the components that contributed to that? I mean, your resume is so impressive.
I stitch a few impressive things together. I make it
We call
sound
it a
it's
quilt.
not that impressive. But being, what I've been able to do without being one of the anointed.
I love that's what the anointed.
I have to give myself credit for.
Okay, I'm stealing that line from you, and I will give you credit. I give credit for anyone I quote. That's great.
I would say experience, absolutely experience. There's too many people that think, oh, I'm going to be the next Laverne Cox, and they have no experience whatsoever.
Right.
Laverne also went to school. She did play after play after play after play
Till
after play.
she right.
And then even when she was making headway on television and things, and she played, she was the go-to gal for truck stop tranny prostitutes.
Yeah.
And she did that again and again and again and again and again. And then when a better, more high profile opportunity came along, she was ready. She was trained. She was experienced.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what that's you. I mean, you came up in that time and things did open up.
Things did have opened up. I mean, now I'm old, so now I have to do
it. Oh, please. No, you know what? You're not going to get away with that on this show. I haven't. No, you won't, because I am.
I think I am youthful and delicious.
Right.
Absolutely.
But
and
business,
experienced. Okay.
In film and television.
Nope.
Well, honey, then it's time for us to change.
Yeah, and
I
am
That's
not
my
hanging up
revolution.
my tushes anytime soon. And
No.
we all have got to stand strong.
And we're the ones, we've got life experience.
We've got the stuff
that these young kids don't
have.
If
you saw
stories
Tim's
to tell.
one-person show, that would blow you the hell out of the
I
water.
heard nothing but
So
beautiful
why are
things.
you not going to cast Tim? Why are you not? Why would you want someone that doesn't have
and Bianca,
that experience? If we can't bring Who and What We Are to the party,
I
about
think you and I should play a straight couple, a married couple, an old married couple going through, the
That's
kids
hilarious.
are leaving the nest. We have the empty nest syndrome. I think that would be an interesting script for us to play.
I think so. I think it would be great.
And
I noticed that, when I was younger and I would get, I would see the breakdowns. And when it was like a young mother with children, I was like, no, because I don't know what that's like.
Right.
And I just,
but that's not you. There are people
fit.
You can be trans and identify with being a mom.
Yes,
you want to be a mom so badly, but that's not you.
Not
right.
Me.
It's
now
got to do with that
the breakdowns are for mothers of adult children. Then I'm very interested. I've been playing a lot of moms where the kids are grown.
Right.
And one of my favorite experiences, we did a workshop of Tales of the City, the musical, and I played Mouse's mother. It was just a very short couple of scenes, like think a phone call and then Mrs. Tolliver and Jason Moore, the director, came over and said, you made something that was like 5 lines. You made her into a complete human being. And I said, well, that's my job.
Right.
That's my job.
Right.
And the one thing about sort of being shut out of a lot of mainstream stuff, you learn. I got 3 lines.
You're gonna make them fabulous.
They're gonna land. They're gonna land and land good.
Yeah, exactly. With the rules that you go up for now, when I look at the casting breakdowns, there's a lot that says trans on it. A lot. But I go back and forth in my own head. Right. Like, how do you, why couldn't you just be the mother of a grown son? Why does it have to be trans? Like, I'm on the fence with that. I love that they're empowering.
Yes.
But I also, it's like, well, but why does it have to identify, your mother of a grown son? Why can't it just be that? What do you think about that?
I think at the end of the day, I'm in here. I'm inside, and I am an artist.
You're an artist.
Yeah. So I want to play many, many, many different kinds of roles. If I'm called in for, like on Law and Order, it was a therapist.
Wonderful. I watched the clip.
Thank you. It was a therapist.
Really great job.
Now, the therapist wasn't written as trans.
Right.
But my agent said, would you see Bianca? And I guess I said, why wouldn't a trans child have a trans therapist? So I in doing the scene where I'm doing a speech at the memorial, And what was perfect is if the audience reads me as trans, it's fine.
Mhm.
If the audience doesn't read me as trans, it's fine.
Right.
So I'm attracted to non-trans specific roles.
I agree.
It's not necessarily me saying I played a cisgender woman. It's not. I mean, yeah, I love playing women that have had children, and that crap.
Well,
But-
it's called acting.
Exactly.
And I like that you said, and I think on these breakdowns, when they'll put open to trans,
Mhm.
BIPOC, they'll put a whole range.
They all put that. They all put
right.
that
Right.
down.
That's just
Yeah.
to cover their ass. But
They may
you
mean
know,
well. They may mean well.
they
They're
may
trying.
mean well, right? And maybe they're trying, but I do think that terminology, non-trans specific role, really should be used more, because you know what? At the end of the day, it's about who that person is.
I
It's
don't.
acting.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
It's
I
the
don't
right
care.
artist.
You don't want me to do the love scene with, you know, I don't care. I don't want to do. I don't want to do a love scene. I don't want to do a sex scene. I'm not
Mhm.
interested. in
That's
that.
not what you want to do.
I am the bitchy fashion editor,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the
Yes.
international spy.
Yes.
You know, the madam. I
Absolutely.
you know, I
But-
love that shit.
But I have seen such again. I mean, the progress that has been made
Yes, totally.
is incredible,
It's
because like
wonderful.
Angelica Ross.
Yes.
Angelica Ross has landed some really good roles
Yes.
that I've seen.
Right.
Angelica is one of my favorite examples of somebody that could be given one or two lines in a scene,
And it makes
Yes.
and
memorable
she
and brilliant.
will fucking
Mhm.
nail
Yes.
them
Uh-huh.
100%, like a fully fleshed performance
Right.
in 2
Uh-huh.
lines.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are, you know, it's great. The breakdowns are open to everybody, but
Yeah.
I still think there's a lot of people that are reticent to
I agree.
to
I know what she's going to say.
to pull the trigger
Mhm.
when it
Mhm.
comes to that. Also, there are a lot of trans roles. You know, there's one of the reasons I was able to get an agent and a manager. You know, after years, I remember when I did TRANSAMERICA, the
Mhm.
premiere in Hollywood, and afterwards, a lot of people came up and said, "You're the real deal.
Mhm.
You're a
I
real
agree.
actress."
How
I
about that?
agree.
She can even act. How
And
about
I was
that?
like,
My
yes,
God.
yes. And you know, there were some big agents, and I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm looking for some representation. And they said, I can't represent you. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Wow.
There just isn't enough work.
Mhm.
And now that's changed a
Right.
lot. There's
Right,
a lot of trans
right.
roles. So
But
I
again, the reason that it has changed is because of trailblazers like
yourself,
Bianca
yeah.
Leish,
Yep.
like Laverne Cox, like that's
Candace-
why
Candace Cain.
Candace
Candace
Cain,
Cain.
because
Candace Cain's
you
beautiful.
broke
She
that glass
was so
ceiling. You
beautiful.
have
Yes.
you have
Right.
stopped at nothing, and you continue, and your
Right.
persistence in being your pure authentic self.
well, I always look at it that, you know, I managed to get a few small roles in the film or television. I managed to get that. I showed up.
Right.
I knew my lines. I hit the mark.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
You
wasn't
did the work.
I
You
wasn't
did
this
the work,
crazy
right.
person they were told, you know,
Right.
that,
Right.
that trans people are.
Mhm.
Candace Cain showed up, hit
Pro.
her mark,
Yeah.
knew her
Was
lines,
prepared. Yep.
didn't cause a ruckus on set,
Right.
was an actor among actors.
Mhm.
Those are building blocks. Laverne, the same thing, shows up. She's
Mhm.
an actor among actors,
Right.
Yep.
hits her mark, knows her lines, delivers a great performance.
Hmm.
That, in a sense, I think were building blocks for later people to say,
Absolutely.
let's go ahead and hire
Right.
Absolutely.
someone.
Right.
Because I think
Absolutely.
for years we were treated like the specialty act. I remember a couple of the very early indie films I had small roles in. It was as if, I mean, even the crew, the cast, they looked at you like, it was as if you were a trained animal that was being, you
Oh
know,
my God.
bring in the tranny,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
Let her out of the cage.
Yes, you know, wheel her in. And it's changed tremendously in
Yeah,
the past
yeah.
20 years.
Right.
So
Mhm.
now,
Wow.
you know, Hurricane Bianca,
Yes, which you were in. Or-
you are just an actor among actors. The
Right.
crews are phenomenal. They
Uh-huh.
don't look at you. You are just like anybody
Because
else.
it's
Yeah.
And
now.
it's fantastic.
Right.
Mhm.
And I love my crews, and I love the fellow actors, and directors. It's just, for me, a lot of the trans roles are being written very young and beautiful.
Yes.
Or I'm 65, married with kids, and I'm going to start transition today.
Yeah.
And those are the two roles that are being written. No one is writing someone that transitioned when she was young, but is now older. That's not being written.
You hit the nail on the head with that
That's what we need to write,
right?
And what we need to get out there.
So I've been writing some stuff,
There we go.
but
Unfortunately,
Oh my God, I can't
we've
believe we're
already
out of
we've ran over, but
there's just so
we
much
have
to
got-
talk about.
And I've still got like a page of notes here. We've
We'll
got to
have to
have
do
you
part
back.
two.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we'll
have
totally
to have you back.
back.
One thing I just wanted to touch on was disclosure.
yes,
You appeared. I last night I was like, oh, let me just watch that again or just check it again. I watched that whole thing, beginning to end again.
it's great.
It's just so informative. It's so educational. It's a film, a documentary film that I highly recommend. Everybody
Netflix.
watch. Yes,
It's on
Disclosure.
Netflix. Yeah.
Disclosure.
We had a ball. I got to see a lot of the girls I haven't seen for a long
Uh-huh.
time. Laverne was delight. Sam Fetter, the director, was fantastic. The producers, it was a joy, and I was thrilled to be asked because, sometimes you're not asked,
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Sometimes you're not
Well,
asked.
They go,
to represent
young,
the community.
hot.
Right,
Yeah,
and it's like
right.
Laverne was,
Yeah.
no, you're the '80s girl.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll talk about movies in the '80s, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and kudos to Netflix. Okay.
Yes,
They have,
absolutely.
they are paving the way.
Absolutely.
Yes. Kudos to all and
Yep.
all the producers and
Mhm.
networks and cable networks that are trying.
And
Thank you.
our lighting man, who also happens to be Wendy's husband, Alan,
Hi, Alan.
he had said at the beginning, he
Yeah.
said,
Thank you for remembering
so,
Alan's question.
Bianca, where do you want to go now?
What I would like is a sitcom because so
Me
many
too.
times the roles that come up that are written for trans are these tragic
Yeah.
tropes.
Right.
Yep.
And it's the same sad story again and again.
Right.
So
we need to
predictable.
get it out
Funny,
there.
funny. We need funny.
We need funny, but we
Yeah.
need to get it out there that trans people do with all the challenges. And yes,
Laugh.
trans women are victims of violence. Black trans women are killed at an insane
Absolutely,
rate,
right.
and that needs to stop. But over the many, many years, I and my peers, many of us have transitioned and gone on to full lives.
Mhm.
We are productive members of society. We
Thank
come in
you.
all professions.
Right.
But I want to do a sitcom because that's a great, number one, it's a great schedule. And that's, I love being, I'm a comic.
Right.
Mhm.
And that is my shit. And I was with Clay. I was being sent on a lot of things. And I said to Jamie once, do you know I'm funny?
Right.
I love it. Right.
Do you know I'm
right.
funny?
I know what you
And
mean.
it wasn't,
I can be funny.
and it wasn't anything to do with Jamie, really,
Right.
because it was the
Right.
parts that were coming up.
Right.
And I said, I want a sitcom. You gotta, I
Mhm.
mean, like The Office.
Yes,
even
right.
No, anything. I agree.
Any of those people that worked in that office.
Yes,
Those-
yes.
Unfortunately, what happens is as a trans actress, if it's a nutty character, you don't want it to be like trans people are nutty. It's a fine line.
Right, right.
But you want to be
You
able
want
to
it to
play
be-
nutty
You want it-
people.
You want
Right.
it to be an interesting representation,
Right.
but not cartoonish. Not that.
Right.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And you
But-
want to be able to pay
Yeah.
people with flaws without
Right,
it necessarily saying all trans people are like
Exactly.
I'm hoping going forward, and I love that you said this about wanting to do comedy. There's no reason not to. There
Why
is
not?
absolutely
I
no
agree.
reason not
I
to.
agree. You
You
put it
know?
out there in the universe,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen now.
Cookie comes in all shapes, sizes, and
I
colors.
did film a sizzle reel for a potential pilot
Uh-huh.
that
Yes.
about a man that loses everything
Hmm.
and is forced to live on his parents' boat.
Oh, God, that's
Yes,
great.
Yes.
And the kooky denizens that live on their boats at the
Oh,
the
that's
pier.
great. Yeah.
And,
At the pier.
Yeah, because they
yes.
are original personalities.
That
Yeah.
is
That's a
ilk
good
unto
one.
itself.
And my
really.
character lives in a boat with her husband, who's a retired NYPD homicide.
Yeah.
I love it.
detective.
You made it homicide.
You know, when
Cop.
we met. No, maybe he wasn't a homicide, but he was a detective. He was and we met when he arrested me.
No!
Oh God, I love
And
it.
years later, we're an old married couple.
And he still hasn't taken the cuffs off.
They come in handy.
There you go with those fantasies again, Tim Moss. My God,
He's wild.
he is.
You're wild.
Yeah, he is. Tim has
I'm
no
fine.
blushing.
Yeah,
Now
he's
you're
fine.
blushing.
I am
Oh my God, he's
blushing.
Now
blushing.
you're blushing.
He's blushing. Bianca, how can people find out more about you on social media? You have a fan page.
I am on Facebook.
Okay.
Bianca Leigh, and I
And it's Leigh, Leigh.
yes, like Vivian Leigh.
Right.
Yes.
Got it.
And Bianca Leigh 2000
With an
on
underscore.
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's an underscore in there.
Cool. Yeah, and Chauncey's running the banner at the bottom of the
Oh my
thing, so there-
God.
I know.
Oh, there we
can't see-
go.
We can't see the banner.
Banner.
because we're
Thank you,
all
Chauncey. Chauncey is
blind.
technically gifted.
Yes, he is. That's.
I hope I
We
didn't
love when
offend
you do that.
anyone, and if I
No, you
did,
didn't offend
sorry.
anybody.
I
Oh,
just-
no. Again, this is not about offense. This is us discussing
That's what
our
we
life
do here.
experiences.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, we share it. We talk the
Yes.
talk. We walk the walk. We thank everybody
You know,
who tuned in today,
Yes.
who made comments. Thank you. We also, when the show's over, we get to scroll through the comments and see who what said
Absolutely.
what, and we try and answer them.
And
so
we love them and we appreciate everybody.
and we
Thank
love
so
having
much.
you with us every week.
And
Bianca,
speaking of love, I love Bianca
love
Leigh
Bianca
so
Leigh.
much. My
I
She's a
love you,
keeper.
Wendy. I love you, Tim.
she's,
Thank you.
she's a,
I
a
love you,
total
Chauncey.
keeper. Thank
so
you,
thank
everybody.
you very much for tuning into If These Walls Could Talk.
See you next week.
Yay.
Good night, everybody.
Very good.